You were not meant to run after things that vanish. You were not meant to chase illusions across deserts of self-abandonment, begging the world to give you what you haven't yet become. No, you were meant to attract. You were meant to sit in the gravity of your own becoming so fiercely that the world can no longer look away. Wealth isn't chased, it's magnetized. And magnetism isn't luck. It's not charm. It's alignment with who you are, with what you believe, with what you tolerate, and most of all, with what you refuse to tolerate. Wealth flows not to the desperate, but to the disciplined. It flows not to the loud, but to the intentional. It flows to the man who no longer defines himself by what he needs, but by what he gives off. Presence, value, clarity, certainty. These are currencies the world respects more than cash. You were trained to run. Run faster, hustle harder, sweat more. But there's a difference between movement and momentum. One wears you down. The other pulls the world in. You don't attract wealth by trying to convince the world of your worth. You attract it by becoming the man the world can't ignore. Magnetism begins where inner conflict ends. The man who is divided within can never command anything outside of him. He speaks one truth and lives another. He desires abundance, but breathes fear. He projects confidence, but inside, he's still begging for validation. And the universe is precise. It doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you mirror. Wealth is not seduced by potential, it's seduced by power. And power isn't noise. It's coherence. A soul that has reconciled its shadow. A mind that no longer flinches at pressure. A presence that feels like still water calm, deep, and unfuckwithable. You want to attract wealth? Kill the version of you that thinks you need it. Let him die. Bury the one who builds for applause. Mourn the one who compares, copies, chases. Then resurrect something else. Something sovereign. Something still. Something that knows what it is without needing permission, performance, or proof. Because that's the paradox. You only attract what you no longer chase. You only magnetize what you no longer obsess over. Not because you've given up, but because you've become. Become the kind of man whose thoughts are clean, whose emotions are integrated, whose standards are untouchable. The wealthy don't beg for opportunities. They create gravity. And gravity pulls all things toward it, not with effort, but with essence. So fix your essence, not your profile, not your pitch, not your marketing funnel. Fix your frequency, because frequency never lies. It's why some men walk into a room and shift the temperature, why others speak and nothing happens, why some build empires from silence while others shout into the void. You don't need to scream to be seen. You need to resonate. And resonance comes from alignment, from deciding that your values are not negotiable, that your peace is more expensive than any bag, that your presence will be built in the shadows, refined in the fire, and revealed only when it is inevitable. This is how wealth is magnetized, not through performance, but through embodiment. You don't get rich by chasing. You get rich by becoming a source. The source of insight, the source of structure, the source of peace, the source of results. And when you are the source, the world must come to you. Because there is no other supply. Because you stopped begging and started becoming. You stopped consuming and started constructing your own identity, your own values, your own lane. And now you don't chase. You choose. You choose what you tolerate. You choose what you build. You choose what enters your space because you finally understand. Your environment is not just a backdrop. It's a mirror and a magnet. What you allow around you reveals what you believe about yourself. The wealthy man doesn't surround himself with comfort, he surrounds himself with pressure. Not chaos, not noise, but pressure, the kind that forges clarity, disciplines the weak mind, and sharpens intuition like a blade. Because he knows comfort is where value goes to die. And magnetism is born from resistance. You must become the kind of man who can hold tension without breaking, who can carry silence without rushing to fill it, who can walk into uncertainty with his spine straight and his conscience clear. The magnetic man does not flinch. He does not rush. He waits because he's already become. And when you become fully, unapologetically, ruthlessly, you no longer need to chase. Wealth finds you, not because you played the algorithm right, but because you've rewritten your internal code. And now your every action echoes from that code. Your words don't beg, they command. Your offers don't plead, they invite. Your presence doesn't scream, it anchors. This is the unseen economy, the currency of identity. The psychology of pull, it's not taught in school, because schools are factories. They teach you how to produce, not how to possess. They teach you to obey, not how to own. But you're done being a product of that system. You're not a tool. You're the blueprint. You're not a follower. You're the signal. So let the others chase. Let them run for crumbs. Let them decorate their cage and call it freedom. You build gravity. You sit in stillness. You hold the line. And when you do, the world bends. Not because you shouted, not because you begged, but because your becoming could no longer be denied. This is what magnetism feels like. This is how wealth kneels before the man who knows himself. Not a man who chases, a man who chooses. A man who no longer needs noise to feel alive. A man who doesn't trade attention for authenticity. A man who walks through the storm without checking if anyone's watching, because his steps are not for the crowd, they are for the throne. And the throne is not given. It is not inherited. It is earned through silence, through sovereignty, through the ruthless shedding of everything that is not you. This is why the magnetic man terrifies the world, because he cannot be controlled. He cannot be bribed with comfort. He cannot be seduced by trends. He has already built a kingdom within, and any wealth he attracts is merely the reflection of that unseen empire. You want to attract wealth? Don't ask what you need to do. Ask who you need to become. Not as a tactic, but as a truth. Not for results, but for reality. Because the man who becomes magnetic doesn't try to be. He doesn't calculate how to impress. He doesn't posture or pretend or polish his image. He simply is. His magnetism is not in his strategy, it's in his stillness, his clarity, his refusal to bend when the world says out for applause. That's the man who attracts, not because he asks, but because he aligns. He's not pulling wealth toward him. He's pulling truth toward reality. And truth cannot be ignored. It doesn't need marketing. It doesn't need manipulation. It doesn't beg. It stands. And when you stand fully, deeply, without needing the world to clap, you become the axis. Not the follower, not the echo, the source. And wealth always finds the source, because it knows that's where it belongs. Because wealth, real wealth, does not belong to the man who hustles mindlessly. It belongs to the man who hosts a frequency of abundance, not as a theory, but as a way of being, a way of speaking that's rooted in self-possession, a way of moving that radiates self-respect, a way of choosing that cuts through distraction like a blade through fog. This man is not hoping to win. He expects it not from arrogance, but from alignment. He has already paid the price. He has walked away from mediocrity. even when it felt familiar. He has chosen solitude over shallow company. He has buried the part of him that begged, that bent, that broke at the feet of cheap validation. And what remains is a man forged by fire. A man who has chosen discipline over dopamine so many times that his soul no longer craves applause, it craves impact. Because once you taste what it's like to move from center, to act from alignment, to build from purpose, you can never go back to begging for breadcrumbs from systems designed to starve you. Magnetism is a rebellion. It is the uprising of the sovereign self. It is a refusal to be a slave to the algorithm of conformity. It says, I will not chase what I already am. I will not pursue what I've already become. I am the signal. I am the standard. I am the wealth. So let them chase. Let them drown in performance. Let them sell out their essence for a seat at someone else's table. You build presence so dense it becomes gravity. You become so real, the world cannot digest you, only respond to you. Because when you magnetize wealth, you don't just receive it. You redefine it. You stretch its meaning beyond money. You elevate it into something sacred, something rooted in truth. Not just having more, but being more. That's the final key. That's the throne they can never take. That's the man the world waits for, even when he doesn't know it yet. So stop running. Stop chasing. Stop knocking. Stand still. Build your frequency. Sharpen your clarity. Own your identity. And watch what finds you. Watch what finds you when you no longer dilute your presence to be palatable. Watch what finds you when you stop negotiating with weakness. Watch what finds you when you no longer apologize for your power, your pace, your pain-transformed purpose. Because at that point, you don't attract money, you attract movements. You don't build businesses, you build realms. You don't manage impressions, you bend perception itself. This is not the surface-level attraction of trends or tricks. This is core-level gravitational pull, and it cannot be taught through formulas. It must be forged in solitude, in silence, in the storm. Magnetism is not the result. It's the reward for the man who chose to become unshakable when everything told him to shatter. For the man who stared into the abyss and built a bridge instead of collapsing. This is the man who owns time because he no longer spends it. He invests it in becoming, in building, in bleeding for a vision that no one else sees until they do. And when they finally see, it's too late. Because by then, he is the vision. He is the authority. He is system. So let the world keep looking for hacks. Let it search for the shortcut to seduce results it hasn't earned. You don't seduce. You command. You don't attract by pretending. You attract by becoming the most non-negotiable version of yourself. That's what magnetism is. It's the result of every invisible decision you made when no one was watching. It's the echo of discipline, the scent of self-respect, the aftermath of alignment. It is what remains after the world tried to distract you and you said, no, I know who I am now. And from that knowing, from that immovable clarity, everything you once chased now turns and begins to move toward you. Not because it pities you, not because it was convinced, but because you are now inevitable. Because at some point you will realize wealth isn't just material, it's spiritual. And money is not the end, it's the mirror, a reflection of your energy, your alignment, your integrity, or the lack of it. You can chase wealth from ego, from fear, from insecurity, and you might catch it, but it will burn you. It will make you a prisoner of the very thing you worshipped, because anything you pursue without soul will own you. It will dictate your choices, distort your identity, and destroy your peace. The wealthy man who is spiritually poor is just a beggar in better clothes. He may wear success, but inside he's bankrupt, starving for meaning, addicted to noise, haunted by the silence he keeps avoiding. But the man who builds wealth from depths, who aligns his values with his vision, who makes money a servant to his soul instead of a substitute for it, that man cannot be touched. He's not owned. He's anchored. Because his wealth is not just in what he has, it's in who he's become to hold it. It's in how he made it. It's in how clean his conscience is when he counts it. You see, real wealth begins the moment you realize that your soul and your strategy are not separate. They are married. And when they are not in union, your money becomes a weight. But when they are in union, your money becomes light. It expands your voice. It amplifies your essence. It deepens your reach. Because now your wealth is not built on force. It's built on truth. You don't manipulate. You magnetize. You don't impress. You inspire. You don't extract. You elevate. This is spiritual wealth, not a net worth, but a soul print. Not your possessions, but your presence. Not your lifestyle, but your legacy. And this level of wealth cannot be stolen, copied, or faked, because it is encoded in who you are. It comes from walking through your own shadows, owning them, holding them, forgiving yourself, elevating your standard for what kind of energy you let lead your life. Not fear, not greed, not scarcity, but truth, but clarity, but service, but power. The quiet, noble, kind. The power that doesn't need to dominate because it has already mastered itself. And from that place, you become not just wealthy, you become dangerous to every system built on manipulation. Because now you are both the mirror and the magnet. You reflect what others are afraid to see. And you attract what others spend their whole lives chasing without losing yourself in the process. That's wealth. That's divinity. That's you, when you finally remember what you were before the world made you forget. As your wealth grows, the test begins. Not of your strategy, not of your hustle, but of your soul. Because money doesn't change you, it reveals you. It puts a spotlight on everything unresolved. Your addictions, your wounds, your pride, your shame. It will whisper to your ego, you are invincible now. And if your soul is not seated in truth, you will listen. You will rise on the outside while decaying within. But if you've done the inner work, if you faced your shadow, healed your history, and chosen to remain whole, then money won't own you. You will own it. You'll wield it like a blade of light, clean, sharp, purposeful. You'll fund movements, not just indulgences. You'll build empires that reflect who you are, not just what you want. You'll walk into rooms not to prove, but to protect what matters. And when you speak, people will feel that your voice isn't inflated by wealth. It's fortified by wisdom. Because at the end of all of it, it's not about chasing or earning. It's about becoming someone so aligned that wealth must find you. So integrated, that money becomes a sacred tool, not a mask, not a trap, not a crutch. And one day you will look in the mirror. No crowd, no applause, no performance, just you. And you will say, not with pride, but with peace. I have nothing to chase, nothing to prove, nothing to hide. I am the magnet. I am the source. I am the wealth. And when you can say that, the world will finally say back, welcome home.